I bet you guys thought that you'd never ever see part 3 of this video series. At least I think we're on part 3, I'll have to check before titling this video. But this is my gaming PC built from spare parts. Now if you haven't seen the other 2 parts, I suggest you go back and watch them. Well, I hope it's a good idea to do that. I haven't actually watched them in a very long time, so I don't know if they're any good. But a lot of people enjoyed this video series. Basically, I took a load of spare parts that I had hanging around, you know, power supply, video card, motherboard, CPU, RAM, SSD that someone donated, loads of fans, and this nice case that I was going to use for another build that I never got round to. I put it all together and I made this PC. Now, it's not the world's fastest PC, it's absolutely far from it. If anything, at heart, it's a little bit of a shed, but it is definitely pretty damn legendary. Now, as you guys know, I'm having a massive clear out, and this is a NZXT Tempest 410 Elite tower. It's quite a big mid-range tower, mid-sized ATX tower, sorry, getting myself all jumbled up here, but it takes up a lot of space. And of course, I'll be building a Hackintosh soon that I can run Windows on, which will be far more powerful than this. And I haven't been using this guy, so all in all, I don't need it. But before I think about even getting rid of it, selling it, whatever I'm going to do with it, we're going to make a couple more videos on it, maybe just this video or maybe another video, I don't know. And we're going to do a couple of upgrades to it, prepare it for the possible, you know, possible scenario of a sale. And we'll probably do a part 4 looking at performance and benchmarks of this system. But for this video, we're going to give this guy a little bit of a better specification and something that it really needs if it's going to be used as an everyday system. So as you guys probably remember, this thing has an Intel SSD in it, I believe. It's either 30GB or actually I think it's 60GB. Now what I'm going to do, of course, because that's the only storage in this system, I'm going to add something that I should have added from the very beginning, and that is a hard drive. Now I haven't even bought this drive. This Western Digital Caviar Blue is a drive that has been with me since January of 2011. This is the original drive that came in my Apple Mac Pro 2008, and I haven't been using it in the Mac Pro for a long time now because I've got a couple of 2TB drives. The 640 is just not used. So what I've spent time doing before recording this video was checking the data on the 640 to see if there was anything on there that I don't have backed up, and of course, because I am fairly organised in terms of backup, I do have everything off this drive backed up on the 2TB drive. So even though I don't have double backup, I have still been brave enough to erase this drive and use it for the storage drive of this gaming PC. Now basically, this drive was used as my boot disk for the longest time, I believe until Mountain Lion, something like that, I'm not too sure. But I do know that when I erased it, it did host around 500GB worth of videos from around 2011 to 2013. So that's a nice bit of history there, but this is going to be slotted into this machine to give it some storage for both games, media, whatever, you know, it's used for in the future. It needs some storage, so 640 plus the 60GB, I think that's in the SSD, we can call that 700 gigs. The OS and the apps will be on the SSD, nice and speedy, and then 640GB is a generous size in a PC that's been built from spare parts. But before we go upgrading this system, powering it up for the first time in a long time and checking that it recognises the drive and all this funky stuff, we're going to take a look inside the case, and even if you've recently watched part 1 and 2, we're still going to refresh ourselves on the hardware because even I've forgotten some of the little things that's in here. So let's pop off the side panel and take a look. Before getting too ahead of myself, guys, we might as well take a quick look at the front of the case. The Tempest 410 has this really cool flap on the top that kind of lifts up and you can use it as storage, and it also has this channel that you can wire your headset wire in. If you plug it into these 2 jacks, you can coil it up in here and then it can come out this side for use. So if you have any spare cable, that's really cool. It does have an optical drive, and also probably one of the most legendary parts of this build is it uses the legendary thermal take total watt viewer pure power supply, which is a 500 watt supply, but it comes with this 5 1/4 inch bay thing with this big knob on it, and it allows you to see how many watts the system is pulling, which is awesome. It pulls about 150 idle, if I remember correctly, and it has this big knob to control fan speed for the PSU fan and also one case fan of your choice. Unless you put splitters on it, then you could probably get away with powering probably quite a few fans off that one control. I can't remember how I've got that wired up. Another cool thing about this PC is the 2 front fans. Not going to remove them at the moment because they're wired in awkwardly, I think. I can't remember. But I've changed these fans out for LED fans, and these have got filters in them and that. It's just all really cool. The Tempest 410 has got to be one of my favourite affordable cases as far as mid-towers go. I don't think they make it anymore, and I'm a little bit out of the loop when it comes to cases, but you know, it's still a great case, and I found mine on eBay for a great price. I was going to use it for a build that I was going to do. I was actually going to do a bulldozer build, believe it or not, guys, in around 2012, but I never got around to it. But anyway, let's swing it around and take a quick look at the back before we pop open the door. Of course, on the back, we've got the motherboard I/O, and this is from the legendary bright red MSI board that was in my parents' PC that I got in the free PC, and this board has done so much for me, and the original CPU, and the original RAM that came with it. So pleased. Case fan, of course. Coming down, we have the back of the legendary 4870. Still a beast graphics card by today's standards, guys. Still absolutely nails a load of games, which is awesome. And coming down, we've got the back of the sound card. The onboard audio has always had a bit of a problem on this motherboard, so it's best to use a sound card, even though this sound card was an absolute nightmare to get working. And then, of course, the back of the Thermaltake PSU. So, that is pretty much it. Very basic on the back. And let's pop the side and take a look, even though you probably all remember what this is all about. So, let's pop the side panel. It's got a nice window on it. I've always liked this case window. Just everything about this case to me looks really good for a gaming case. It's also kind of like got this retro feel about it, if that makes sense. It's got no frilled bells, whistles, anything like that. It's just a straight up really nice ATX case. So taking a look inside, you guys can see it's pretty basic. We've got the power supply down here, and the fan intakes from the bottom of the case because there's a nice fan filter down there. It is a modular supply, but I'm using pretty much all the leads, so you know that kind of becomes redundant. I've got a 120 intake in the bottom. That's a XigmaTech purple LED fan, which is the dimmest LED fan I've ever seen in my life. We have here a sound card. We have a LED PCI vent cooler for the graphics card, which is totally unnecessary, very loud, but I put it in there just for a laugh because I had it hanging around. You know, this PC was kind of crammed full of loads of spare parts that I had. Here we have the Radeon 4870. I believe from memory this is a Sapphire card, not 100% sure, but it is the 1 GB version, I believe. I'm not sure about that either. Could be 512. But anyway, there's the card. Legendary that it is. Here we have the rear case fan. These are all Yate-Loon fans. I've got one here, and they're the 2 in the front as well. These are the hard drive bays, and here's where the SSD is sitting. The hard drive will sit somewhere underneath it. I've got a power cable waiting. If we just come up a little bit, so you guys can see, we have here the CPU, original CPU heatsink, and under there is an AMD Athlon 3800 Plus. I believe that's a 2.2 GHz dual core CPU, not 100% sure. It's a socket 939 board, MSI board, legendary. Very old board, but man, it still packs a punch, and I can't fault the stamina of this board. It's got its quirks. It's sometimes like Windows. It was like this even when it was a free PC, and then when it was my parents' PC. It's always had this thing where, say, 1 out of 20 startups, it'll restart itself for no known reason, and I've never been able to fix it, but that's just one of its quirks, along with the audio. I think the audio gave up a long time ago. Here we have 4 mismatched RAM sticks. I believe that totals to about 3.25 gigs, if I'm correct. It should be 4 GB, but there's a bit of a problem with one of the RAM sticks, but it's all just shoved in there and it works okay. Here we have a nice blue 24-pin cable extension, and at the top here, a little bit out of shot, we have the two 140mm XigmaTech fans as exhausts that I used in my original gaming PC, so they're up the top there. Now basically my goal with this, guys, was not to get extreme quiet, extreme airflow, anything like that. I just shoved the case full of fans just for a laugh. I wanted to fill fill every single fan bay in this case. I had the fans to do it, and I thought might as well. You know, a lot of my viewers and supporters found it really hilarious, as I did. But you know, a lot of the gaming PC people that are really into this stuff were like, man, this cooling is terrible. It's got blah blah blah, positive, negative pressure, and all this stuff. You know, if I was doing this system seriously for me to use every single day, then I'd definitely sort out the cooling. But you know, the damn thing runs stone cold because of the amount of fans in here, and you know, dust or no dust, you can't deny that the cooling is pretty insane. And I've got no LED lighting in this case, so I need all the fans to light it up for the side window, and that's pretty much my excuse. Of course, lastly, the LG optical drive is in that bay there, and that is pretty much it. So, if I just turn around and grab the stuff that I need, I have got the Western Digital Caviar Blue 640GB, along with a short blue SATA cable. Can't remember where that came from, and I'm going to just pop those there while we quickly take a look at the hard drive section. If you guys can see here, I have a spare SATA power hanging off of that loom that's going to the SSD. So this is going to be a super easy job. The SATA connections are right there under the video card. Everything is going to go smoothly, and I'm just going to throw in this drive. We're going to boot up, see if Windows detects it, format it for Windows, and that will be us pretty much rock and roll on this system, guys. So guys, if memory serves me correctly, I should be installing hard drives from the front right here. And the interesting thing is about these fans, this is an awesome part of designing on the case, but I never chop down the fan cables, so they bunch up. So I believe I had some problems with that, but it's all okay now. It's these no contact pads that are awesome, and then you just pull the fan filters out up here, and you can clean the fan filters. This design is so good, and for a budget case, I believe this was a budget case anyway, it's so good. Let's take out both of those fans and set them aside for a second, and here you can see that we've got the SSD in this little bay, but I don't want to pull that too hard because of the cabling, but actually it does come out a fair way. I don't know why that comes out at the same time as well. Oh, it's tied against that one, that makes sense. So we can just put the hard drive kind of wherever we want. I'm going to leave a gap, not that the hard drive will get crazy warm or anything, but let me just figure out what's going on here. So that's got the power cable wrapped around it. I tell you what, we'll stick the hard drive in this one, guys, because that looks nicest internally. So, to my knowledge, because of these little pins that we have here, the drive should literally snap into place. And I believe you can secure it with screws if you want to, but I think you can just separate that and snap the drive in. And I always hate doing this with these kind of cases, but it does work, and it is secure if I can get it in properly. Looks like recent events have caused slight Tom Smith insanity. I was trying to put the drive on upside down. So now it just clipped right into place, and the four little screw type kind of pin things are rubber mounted. This drive is not going anywhere. So before I manhandle this drive anymore and completely ruin it, we will turn it the right way around and slide it back into the case. And this is probably one of the easiest things to do. Here we go. Any second now it'll slide in. If it'll go in, something has popped out the side. Oh gosh, something has happened now. I have done something, guys. Nope, I haven't broken anything to my knowledge, everything is fine. And there we have it, guys. Hard drive in place with, of course, the most attractive bright blue SATA cable routing out there. Not. But yeah, it looks fine. There's the drive. There's how it looks from a distance. Actually, that big loop of cable does look more horrendous than the rest of the system, so I think I will try and hide it a bit more. That's as best as we're doing, guys. It'll blend in soon enough. This little short green SATA cable up here, I did have another one of these. These were the ones that I originally bought for my MDD, if you guys remember, but they didn't fit. They weren't long enough because that computer is built kind of upside down. So I got two longer ones, and I used this one in this build for the SSD, and I was saving the second green one for a hard drive, but I actually gave that green one to someone in a load of computer parts that I gave away, unfortunately, so I'm now stuck with this blue one, which is too long, but it's okay, I really don't mind. Looking at the SATA connections on this board, then you can see the green one there, the blue one there, and there's a spare one in the middle, and then there is that red one there that's actually plugged into the optical drive. So, for an older board, it is very generous, and of course it still gives you two IDE channels, so I mean that's always an option if you fancy it. And the amount of spare IDE drives that I still have, even after giving about 6 away, you know, I could still stack up this drive bit with IDE hard drives, but 640 gig will be plenty of storage, and you know, let's try and keep everything relatively modern. So I'm going to clip the fans back on, make sure the cabling isn't rubbing, and then we will plug this system into the KVM and boot it up on my primary monitor. Sorry about this dangling cable, guys, it's my camcorder power cable, but anyway, as you can see, we are hooked up with power in the bottom. Let's flick the power on. We have audio out, we have that I can actually hear through the speakers. We have DVI, USB and network, so we're going to give this a good run for its money and a good test. So let's push the power button, and I'll drag up my chair so that we can see what's going on. There is the post, MSI. Got everything a little bit wonky on my setup now because I've been fiddling around with stuff. And here we go. It's kind of really cool. Before, on my dual monitor setup, I'd have to dedicate, you know, one of my two monitors, but now I can just have it on the center 24-inch if I'm only using one output from a certain computer, and it looks much less out of place. And I can still keep important things on my Mac as well that I need to be seeing all the time. So there we go, there's a fairly speedy Windows 7 boot up because it's an SSD. Let me type in my password. There we go, we are now logged on, and we got a couple of errors and stuff. But yeah, I actually called the account Elite Gaming. I think it was because this is the Tempest 410 Elite case. So let me see if the 640 gig drive is detected. And boom, just erased storage. It's detected it, 596 gigs. That's a lot less than we get on the Mac, but you know how it works. There we have it. Successful upgrade to my PC from spare parts. So, there will be another part to this video, I believe, guys, part 4, which is where we'll actually run this through some benchmarks and take a look at some games on here before I get rid of it. If I do get rid of it, I'm not 100% sure on anything yet, but as you guys can probably tell, that was fairly successful. This computer now has storage. Of course, as always, please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, give me a thumbs down if you didn't enjoy, and explain why in the comments, and of course, I will see you in tomorrow's video.